Good morning. Is everybody still asleep? First of all, I want to say it's an honor to be here. It's a pleasure to speak with other mothers and fathers who may have gone through a loss such as I have. Regardless of what type of loss it was, nevertheless, it's still a loss and the pain is still there. I'm going to first start off by telling you how average I was. The lights are kind of bright, but I think I can do this. I was an average mom from an average community in Miami, Florida. I grew up in Miami, Florida. And when I say average, I mean, I had an average job working for the housing agency in Miami with an average car, average kids, an average house, and fairly good income. And so I just didn't quite understand how I can go from being such an average mom to a spokesperson. Of course, me living my average life, I did the same things that a lot of you did as mothers, and that's to make sure we provide for our children, to make sure we loved our children. We showed them respect, and we showed them how to respect others. We showed them everything that we had and everything that was instilled in us, we instilled in our children. And that's absolutely what I did. But a lot of times it's not always about our children and what our children did, as in my story. A lot of times I tell people that this is not a lecture for me. This is not a seminar for me. This is none of those things for me. This is my life. And so what I'm simply telling you is my message, is my journey. It's what happened during my life that went from an average lifestyle to an advocate for senseless gun violence, for children, for loss, and all those other things that you can possibly imagine. But like I said, I was living an average life. I would come home from work. And if I was late from coming home from work, Trayvon would be at the door, and he would wonder what took me so long getting home from work, because he knew the time. He was there every day after school, and so he would wonder, well, what took so long? And I would tell him, oh, I went by the store, I stopped off to a friend's house, or whatever the situation was, I would tell him. But he was the kind of kid that, because I have two sons, and he was the kind of kid that when mom's not home, he has to call around and he gets all frantic. When I'm at home, he's good, he's comfortable. But as long as I'm gone, I'm not home yet, or things like that, he's calling, he's texting, he wants to know where I am and different things like that. I have two boys. I have two sons, like I said. I have Sybrina Fulton, who's 24 years old. He just graduated from Florida International University in Miami, and he has an IT degree. And he is, you know, a little different. He's very kind of shy, very smart. He has maybe about 5 friends. He was a little different from Trayvon. Trayvon was more outgoing. He had about 100 friends. And so Trayvon liked the outside, Sybrina likes the inside. So I had 2 different types of personalities living in the same house. But we got along. And so I always tell people that I still have two boys. I have one in heaven and I have one here on earth. And this is my mission now, to make sure that I fight for both boys. I can't continue to pretend and use terms like I had been using before and say that I lost Trayvon, because he is not lost. He's in heaven. I can't say that I lost him and, you know, as if I don't know what happened to him. He was murdered. And so I need to use those type of terms. But to go back to my average life and my average lifestyle, I used to, you know, save my money like most moms do, and make sure that we had a nice vacation every year. You know, make sure that they had nice school clothes and they had bicycles and they had cable TV, because if you don't have cable TV, you're nothing. If you don't have a computer at home, you're nothing. And so I had to make sure they had whatever the kids had, they had. And so I just made sure that I provided well for them. Tracy also was involved, Trayvon's dad, to make sure that they had whatever they needed in order to be productive in school. And so, which comes to the next part of my journey. Well, prior to the next part of my journey, but I had been a county employee for 24 years with Miami-Dade Housing Agency. And I just, you know, was comfortable with my lifestyle. And so I tell people all the time that this is not something that I would have signed up for. You know, like, in the military, they sign up to fight for our country. They sign up to be brave men and women. But this is not something that I would have signed up for. I would not have signed up to have my son sacrificed. I would not sign up for my son to be the symbol for hoodies or racial profiling or racial discrimination or any of those things. It was not something that I would have wanted. It was not something that I would have signed up for. It would not have been something that I would have even applied for had I known that there was a vacancy there. It was not something that I wanted to do. And so it makes it really difficult when you know that you have been pushed in a position that you did not want. You have been pushed in situations that you did not want to deal with. You are being forced to live a new life. You have been forced to have a new normal life. And now, what does a new normal life look like? For me, my new normal life is I have a son that's at home right now. I'm missing a son, the son that's in heaven. And I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of advocacy work. And it's helping. I meet with a lot of families, and it helps me. So that's what my new normal life looks like. But just to back it up a little bit and to talk a little bit more about my journey, is that a lot of people think that the worst day of my life was the day that I got the telephone call from Tracy saying that Trayvon had been murdered, saying that Trayvon had been killed. How many of you think that's the worst day of my life? Worst day of your life, when you get the telephone call that your son or daughter was deceased. A lot of people do think that's the worst day of your life, but it's not. The worst day of my life was when I attended my church in Miami, and I had to sit in the front row of the church at my son's funeral, at my son's homegoing celebration. And although it's called a celebration, I couldn't find anything to celebrate, because I looked at the front of the room and I seen a casket, a white casket, with my 17-year-old son, who had been murdered because of senseless gun violence. And he was dressed all in white with a nice haircut as if he was sleeping. That is by far the worst day of my life. And the reason why I have to say it, the reason why it's a part of my message and I won't take it out, is because 3 years later it still hurts. But I have to say it. I have to get it out because I think it's part of my healing process. I think it's a part of why it happened. So that there's a message that comes from this mess. So that there's a purpose for all of this. Because I refuse to believe that God would allow Trayvon to be murdered without something positive coming from this. I refuse to believe it. And so as I sat in the front of the funeral, I could not tell you if somebody read a poem, if somebody sung a song. I cannot remember for the life of me what happened at the funeral. I do not know. I was there. Physically, I was there, but mentally, I was not. You've been in this place before where you've been someplace and you really don't remember what happened or some of the things that occurred. I was there, but I really wasn't there, because I felt like a part of me was in the casket as well. I felt a part of me was lost. And as I looked at the casket, there was a whole lot of pain attached to my 17-year-old, and I still call him a baby because he's my baby. So I made it through that day. The worst day by far, and the darkest day of my life. I made it through. But I absolutely believe it was not me that made it through. I don't believe that Sybrina was strong enough to do it. And so all I had was God. Because as a mother, a lot of you guys are sitting and you can imagine if something happened to your child. And maybe it did. And maybe you remember how it felt. But I don't personally feel like Sybrina could have done it alone. And so what I did was I leaned on my favorite Bible verses, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he shall direct your path. So that scripture right there told me that I didn't have to understand what was happening. But all I had to do was believe in God and he would direct me. And he has been. He has been directing me because I still don't understand 3 years later. And so one of the things that I remember by going through the trial, and I remember by all of the places and the media outlets and the interviews that we've done, there was a point when this first happened that I was on the floor grieving in tears day in and day out. And I felt like I would never be happy again. And I felt like I just was not going to have a normal life again. And I felt like I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. I would get up early in the morning and I would brush my teeth, I would change my clothes, and I would sit back on the floor and cry again. And this continued and continued and continued. And then one day I opened my hands and I had nothing but tears in my hand. And I told myself that I could do better than this. I told myself that my son needed me, even in his death. I needed to be his voice. And then I told myself that I could be stronger than this. And I had to speak out for people who were not able to speak for themselves, for children who didn't have parents to speak up for them. And so once I decided that, I started to come out of my shell a little bit, because I wanted to be the voice for the voiceless. Because my son is not here to tell his side of the story, so I have to be here to represent my son. I have to be here to represent other people's children as well. And so I had been going to church before this. I had people to pray for me. I had people to give me crosses and Bibles and poems, and none of those things matter until I decided within myself that I can do more than this. How many of you know that it comes from within? That sometimes when the cameras go off and the lights go down and your friends go home and your neighbors go home and your family members go back to their homes, it's nobody but you. You have to have a word. You have to have self-encouragement. There has to be something in you, some seed in you that tells yourself, I can do this. I can do this. And you have to not only say it, but you have to also believe it. And the day that I got off that floor, I said it, but I didn't really believe it. But the more I said it, the more I believed it. And I said it again, and I believed it a little more. And I continued to tell myself that I'm much stronger than this. I'm much stronger than the person that's on the floor crying day in and day out. Because prior to that, I was happy 95% of my life. It was only 5% that I would say was unhappy. So I had a very good life. And so I went from the 95% to the 5%, and then the 95% became my sad days. And those were the days that I feel like I could not move to the next day. I'm never gonna be happy again. I'm never gonna smile again. I'm never gonna laugh again. I'm never gonna go to a party again. I'm never gonna be with friends and family again. My life is over. I'm never gonna be happy again. And I felt like that. I absolutely felt like that. Because I couldn't imagine moving on to the next step without my son. I couldn't imagine it. And so just to fast forward a little bit, when I attended the trial of my son, more dark days, more painful nights, and it got to the point that I wouldn't even watch the news, because I knew that my son even though he was the victim, that they were going to speak negatively about him, that they were going to say nasty things about him because they have to justify the murder that was caused to him. A few things as a mom. The hoodie. I wanted to believe that it was because of the hoodie that Trayvon was murdered. I wanted to believe that because I did not want to believe that we were living in a society. We were living here in America. We were living here in this country. And we still had people that hate because of the color of your skin. I refused to believe that. I did not want to believe it. I was one of those people that said, but something else had to happen. It could not have happened like this. You could not have had a 17-year-old teenager walking back to his dad's place with a drink and candy. And you had a 28-year-old neighborhood watch captain to follow him, to chase him, pursue him, and murder him because of the color of his skin. And so it really does not matter to me who pulled the trigger. In my heart, it's a loss. In my mind, it's a loss. In my life, it's a loss. A lot of people get wrapped up around who pulled the trigger. I would not feel better if it had been another African American. I would not feel better. But people don't understand that. And that's because we've gotten so far away from us just being regular human beings and caring about people because we are human. No other explanation. It does not matter what religion you are, what color you wear your hair, if you wear glasses or no glasses, what school you went to, what education background you have, who your parents are, what sexual orientation you are, what kind of car you drive, what neighborhood you live in. None of those things matter. I'm not asking you that the person that you're sitting next to, you should love them unconditionally. I would not be so foolish. But what I will say is the person that's sitting next to you, you should respect them. And they should respect you, regardless of who they are and who you are. But just by the mere fact that you are a human being, they should respect you. And so one of the ways that I dealt with the grief and the fact that we are in a society that a person will look at you and judge you and decide that you're suspicious and not only want to harm you. Like we have some people that harm animals, you know, for no reason. It's what's in their heart. We have people that because of somebody's religion, not only do they want to harm them, but they want to murder them. We have people here, not right here, not right here, I hope not, but I'm just saying here in this country. We have people that because of the color of your skin may want to harm you or may want to even murder you. We have people. So a lot of times people don't understand that concept because they're not going through that concept. But we have people, just like we have good people, we have bad people too. There are bad people. And when the heart is not pure, when the heart is not clean, you will look at somebody and judge them and decide you want to harm them or you want to murder them. But that is not the person that I am. And a lot of people ask about forgiveness, and I'm going to talk about that too, right now. So one of the questions that usually comes up when I speak is, have I forgiven? And I'm a very honest person. I'm a very direct person. I'm a very clear person. The answer to that is absolutely not. I have not forgiven yet. I am still hurting. I am still healing. But I know in my mind and I know in my heart that sooner or later I will have to forgive. But I'm not at that point right now. Would I do something to harm somebody else? No, I wouldn't. Because it's just not the type of person I am. I don't think an eye for an eye. We'd all be dead. What good would that solve if every time you did something to me, then I did something to you, and then you do something to her, and she does something? We'll all be in bad shape. Somebody has to be the better person. Somebody has to be the more realistic person. Somebody has to be the person that says, okay, I'm going to take this and see where maybe I can educate this person. Maybe I can bring awareness to what has happened by my story. Maybe I can do some other things with it. Maybe I can help another family. And those are some of the things that the foundation does. We have the Trayvon Martin Foundation, and I'm not going to tell you it was an easy process. It was a very hard and tedious process, but through that foundation, I'm able to, number one, stand before you today in my right mind. Of course I still cry. Of course. I'm no superwoman. As a mother, I'm going to cry. Whenever I think about it, I cry, and guess what? I don't even apologize for it anymore. Because when I want to cry, that's my time to cry. And it's okay. If you guys are crying, it's fine. Do not apologize for your tears. And so sometimes when I talk about what has happened, I cry, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I stand up straight, and sometimes I can talk to the mothers because they've gone through, or they're going through, some of the same things that I just went through in the last 3 years. And so I reach out to those families. I'm in Florida, but I have been to almost everywhere. Families I met with in California and Chicago. We just left Portland and Ohio. We're here, and now we're headed to North Carolina. I met the mom in Cleveland whose 12-year-old son had the toy gun up. Moms in New York, Aurora, Colorado, Texas. They're all over the place. It's pain all over the place. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot to be done. And so one of the things that I do is I make sure that I'm doing my part, because I refuse to just let my son's death be in vain. I just refuse to do that. And so a few of the things that I just want to share with you that you can possibly do, because I don't know everybody's situation, but I can definitely tell you some things that will help. One of the things that I did, the first thing was I had a word, and I meditated on that word whenever I needed to. That's my Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I said that like continuously to build myself up, because I didn't feel like I could help anybody else if I was broken. And so that was step number one, to make sure that I built myself up, that I was able to stand up straight, and I was able to speak, and I was able to tell somebody a message, tell somebody a word to try to help them. And so another thing that I remember just to help me get past this awful tragedy was I surrounded myself with positive people. All the negative people, They sat way in the back. The positive people I kept around me in my circle. And I kept positive reinforcements around me. Listen, you can get through this. You can do this. Be strong. Say a prayer. Come with me to church. Come with me here. They gave me poems. I surrounded myself with positive-minded people. Whether it's family or friends. Because sometimes it's your friends that is really that strong person. Your family is probably broken down with you as well. And so sometimes it's your friends. And you don't need a whole bunch. You just need some strong ones that's going to be there to support you. And so those are two of the basic things that I did. But even on another level, some of the things that I've learned through my journey is to not only to make sure that, and this is specific to my case, not only to make sure that you're a registered voter, but that you go out and vote. Because we knew nothing about the stand your ground until this happened. And so it's important that you know what issues are on the ballot and who's running for office. And it's important that you vote in those little elections as well, so that you can see when they try to slip something in and you don't know what it is. But if you don't vote until the presidential election, then you're going to be lost about the issues that's happening in your community. Another thing that is important, specific to my case, is when you receive the jury summons to go to jury duty, you know, the one nobody wants to get, that one. It's important that you not try to think of a reason to get out of jury duty, but you think of a reason why you need to go. Because sometimes somebody's son or daughter may have needed your help. Because in my case, the person who shot and killed my son is still walking around. He wasn't held accountable for what he did. And that's because we have laws in place. We have a law in Florida that says you don't have to. You don't have a right to retreat. So he was scot-free. And so a lot of times people look at the jury summons and they say, oh, and they think of ways. I was guilty of it too. But now I know the importance of it. And so I'm just simply saying to you that when you get that jury notice, please go, listen to it, be an open mind. And then the other thing I would say is, a lot of times we hear about different stories and different tragedies in the news, on social media, in the newspaper. You hear about these tragedies and you say, that's awful, that's, you know, we feel really bad about them, right? And sometimes we even want to do something about it. We can't continue to ignore those issues. One of the things that I wanted to say is that when I hear about a 8-year-old drowning in a pool or a 2-year-old in a car accident, it does not matter to me the color of their skin. I don't ask, well, is this person black, white, or Hispanic? It doesn't matter to me, because I know that there's a mother and a family attached to that 2-year-old. I know that there's hurt, pain, and grief that's attached to that 2-year-old. And so we have to get out of this thing about the color of a person's skin. Because it's a lot of things that I can stand before you and take off. My jacket, my shirt, my pants, my shoes. But I cannot remove the color of my skin. And you cannot continue to judge people by the color of their skin, or their social status, or their education, or those things. Remember, human beings, and it's about respect. But I was saying that because What you can do when you hear these tragic stories and you want to do something, you want to get involved, one of the things you can do is you can find a nonprofit organization. And I say nonprofit. And through that nonprofit organizations that have the same goals and the same objectives in mind, you can lend your time and your talent. And it might be a fee attached to it. It might be $30, it might be $20, whatever the cost is. Please be a member. Give them your time. They need you. Those nonprofit organizations need you. And they want you to be a part, not just when something happens, not just when you get upset about something. They had an organization in Miami, and they had this guy in Miami, and he killed 9 cats in his neighborhood for no reason. No reason. And the organization there reached out, and they got hundreds of people to participate to try to help build membership. But it's not so important about you just becoming a member, but you continue to stay involved. You continue to participate if these are issues that are near and dear to you. You have to make sure that you're doing your part. You have to make sure that you're doing something. And then the other thing that I want to mention is, when this first happened to Trayvon, not only did we create the Trayvon Martin Foundation, but we do something once a year, and we've done it for 3 years now, and it's called the Trayvon Martin Remembrance Weekend. And that's our way as parents to remember my son. And what we do is we have what we call is a peace walk. And the peace walk is a short distance. And we let our young people know, we let our community know, we let our religion groups know that our children have a right to walk in peace. They have a right to walk without being followed, chased, pursued, or murdered. We do that in remembrance of Trayvon. And then that's on Saturday, and then on Sunday we have a remembrance dinner. And every year for the last 3 years, they always sing happy birthday to Trayvon. And I always tell myself, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry this year. How many of you know every year I cry? Every year I cry. And I don't apologize. Those are sincere tears. And so that's what we do. And so what I would urge you to do is think of something that you can do to remember your loved one. To remember something they've done, remember something they've said, and incorporate it into a day. Incorporate it into a breakfast. Incorporate it into just something so that you are doing it each and every year. One of the things I know is Jennifer Hudson had a sister that lost a lot of family members, mainly a little 17-year-old nephew. And every year they do a back-to-school event, and they give out book bags for that 7-year-old nephew that she lost. Her sister is still living, but it's for the nephew. And so just imagine how rewarding that is. Just imagine how rewarding it is for us to go to the Trayvon Martin Peace Walk and Peace Talk. And as we're walking, you know, it's so many people that have supported us and that came together, and we have people that come to Miami to just get away. Nice weather, if you guys want to come. Very nice weather. And, you know, just to have so many people walking with us in support of. And then at the end of the Peace Walk, we have the Trayvon Martin Peace Talk. and that's a little more entertaining. We have our young people to say a poem, to do a dance, or just sing a song, or just something to remember Trayvon. And then, of course, we have the police department that comes out and speak. We have our different politicians that come out and speak to support, and the police department, we have law enforcement, because we want to bridge the gap between our young people and law enforcement. And so that's just something that we do through the foundation. That's something we do, and I guarantee you it's something fulfilling. It's something that you will be able to move to the next step. Because one of the things that I was told one time is that when you have a loss, you cannot remove that loss. You cannot bring it back. You have to move from that point on. And so a lot of times people say rest in peace, but they don't think about their own peace. They just think about the person that's in heaven. They don't think about their own peace in their own life so much. They forget that it's important to move to the next chapter. You know, a lot of people think, well, I can't move to the next chapter because I have a loss. I think maybe a lot of people have a loss. But it's how you deal with that loss that will dictate the rest of your life. And you will be able to either have a happy life or a sad life. And myself, I wanted to have a happy life. And I didn't want my oldest son, Javaris, to suffer because his brother was murdered. I try now to make sure that he has a normal life. And so a lot of times I don't bring him to a lot of the speaking engagements. I don't bring him, he didn't come to a lot of the rallies and a lot of the different things that were done, because I just wanted him to be aware of what was going on, but I didn't want him to be wrapped up by it and his life to just change drastically like my life did. You know, so I kind of saved him away from some things that I didn't want him to be involved in. And so we have to think about our other children as well. And so I didn't want him to continue to go with a broken mom. I wanted him to see a strong mom. I wanted him to see a mom that, yes, I lost a son, but I can move on. And I can do some things to remember that son that passed away, because I still have to live for Javaris. And I still have to be mom to Javaris. And I still have to be Sybrina to myself, and I have to make sure that I am doing things that are positive, and I'm doing things that will bring back my life. Because when Trayvon died, I lost a part of my life. I lost a part of my heart that I will never get back. And so I'm new to this. I'm only 3 years for my healing process. I don't know if I ever heal completely. I don't think there's such a thing. But I know what I need to do is I need to make sure that I move to the next chapter, and that I'm doing my best to help others. And I'm doing my best to bring a message to others, to try to encourage others, to try to inspire others. Because I've really gone through it, and I've gone through it publicly. I wasn't able to go through my tragic story in my home, and I had to move. And so everything I did became a news story. And everything I do now becomes a news story. I had a glass of wine in another city, and that became a big deal. I'm like, I drink wine. But everything is a big deal. And my attorney told me, listen, if you leave here and you go out and you get in a car accident, it's news. I'm like, why? So my new name became Trayvon Martin's mom. It's not Sybrina. It's Trayvon Martin's mom. It is Trayvon Martin's mom, but it's also Javaris Fulton's mom, and it's also Sybrina Fulton. And so let me ask how I'm looking on time, because I'm just, I am, okay. We're gonna have a chance to, for you guys to ask questions, but I'm just trying to think of some of the things that I went through so that you can overcome those hurdles. And it has a lot to deal with the heart. Trayvon was shot in the heart. And it hurts my heart to think about it. And it's just how everything happened that I just feel like it was done for a reason. And a lot of people ask, well, why do you think Trayvon Martin's name became so famous? Why do you think it was him that everybody wanted to rally and everybody wanted to protest? And I don't know. I just did what I needed to do as a mom. And of course I fought it. Of course I told God, no, leave me alone, not me. No, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to help people. No. I wanted to just go back to my regular life. I wanted to go back to just being me. I didn't want the position. And so I struggled with it. I struggled, trust me. Hello? I struggled. It wasn't something that I would have voluntarily done. Like I said, it's just something I struggled with because the pain was so real. And I couldn't imagine me sitting in any one of those chairs and having an interview without crying. I was still at that point. But that's not the point that you guys seen. Because I think by the time you started seeing me, I was trying to come around, because one of the things is I had told myself that I was never going back to the Sanford area again. I live in Miami, which is about 3.5 hours from Sanford, where Trayvon was murdered. And Tracy was there, Trayvon's dad, and I told him, I said, you handle it. You get whatever police report, you go to the medical examiners, you do everything you need to do there, and then you bring my son's body home so that we can have a proper burial. And so I told myself, I'm never going there again. I'm never going to Orlando. I don't care about Mickey and Minnie and nobody else there. And I was sincere. I was like, I'm not going. And then I got a call from Tracy and Attorney Crump. And this was one of the days that the fight came out. And I was told by them that you have to come, you have to do interviews. And I was like, I'm not doing any interviews. I'm not going on any news station. Why? Oh, you need to get the word out. I didn't understand that. Why do I need to get the word out? They killed a 17-year-old. This guy, neighborhood watch captain, killed a 17-year-old who was minding his own business, walking home. He picked the wrong guy. He was looking for an African American. He had a loaded weapon. Trayvon had candy and a drink. He picked the wrong guy. That's not the guy that was breaking in homes. Trayvon's cell phone says that he was on the cell phone with a young lady up until 71 seconds before his death. You do the math. Anyway, now I forgot that part. But I was saying that, yeah, I just forgot that part. Okay, so, oh, God. It's just so much. It's so much. But I know that my son is in heaven. I know that what I'm doing, he's looking down on me and he's smiling and he's glad that he has a mom like me. He's very proud of his mom. He's probably also very surprised that his mom is speaking. But this is what we'll do for our children. And I tell people all the time, even the death of my son won't separate me from the love of my son. And so I'm going to leave you for now by telling you to be encouraged and to also encourage yourself. I'm going to also share my favorite Bible verse again. It's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. I thank you so much for listening. Thank you.